Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
A magic beyond anything you could ever imagine.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Sagrera Farms on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Locking down the middle of the day.
You really think that's the best idea?
Live from the Raising Cane studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
It's quite a piece of work.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Raising Cane studio downtown in the capital city on this Thursday, working towards the weekend. Brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. Got Jordan Kitchens and Taylor Sharp back there on the ones and twos. Fired up, you are here with us. We got plenty to get to. Luke Johnson's coming back. All right, Luke Johnson in 15 minutes. Haven't talked to Luke since the birth of his second child, but he's back in action these days. We'll talk some Saints with him coming up. Joe Healy's here at the bottom of the hour to talk some SEC baseball. Lane Kiffin's thoughts on scheduling. I have my thoughts. You might have your thoughts. Lane's are the most important thoughts. And based on what he has said and what he has done, I've got a feeling I know where things are headed here in Baton Rouge. Chris Blair will be with us at 2:15, breaking down LSU in South Carolina on the Diamond this weekend. So as you can see, plenty to do. Let's get right to it with our opening drive.
Welcome to the big league.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive. Presented by Fabry Chevrolet GMC in St. Francisville.
If you asked me to take out a piece of paper and write down the problems with this LSU baseball team in 2026, I'd be there a minute. The list would be rather long. If you asked me to do it based on the most severe problems at the top and moving down, what I'm about to talk about would not be at the top of the line. It's on the list. It's not on the top. And it's something that I talked about back on Monday, but it's something that I put some numbers to this morning, and I'll relay them to you. It is one of the major issues with this team. I would suggest that some of the more common problems are the reason why LSU's way down the list in the SEC, down at 15th. This is what is part of the reason LSU's not an elite team. I know they're a long way from that, but the elite teams have this, and LSU does not. What is it? It's a starting rotation eating innings. There are two roles in starting pitching in college baseball. You can apply it to major leagues, but not quite as much. In college baseball, there are two roles for starting pitching. The first is run prevention, obviously. Stop the other team from scoring runs. Got it. The second is eating outs. College pitching staffs, far more often than not, have 4 or 5 guys they really trust, and the rest of the staff is down the line. There just aren't a lot of college baseball pitching staffs that have 8 guys that are there just locked in. Just doesn't happen. You look at LSU in Omaha last year. They went to Anderson, Ianson, Shores. They went to Cowan. They went to basically Rizzi at one point. But essentially, you're going to your top 4, 5, 6 guys. That's it. So in order to do that, somebody's got to pitch a lot. And that's the starting rotation. And LSU's just not getting that. What you're getting is short stints by the starters that are forcing the bullpen to go very, very deep. Pitch a lot of innings. We talked about it last week. Those were extenuating circumstances. Schmidt's the only starter you had. He gave you 4 innings. Your Friday starter got scratched. You don't have your Sunday starter. So you're looking at this and going, well, Schmidt pitched 4 innings. The bullpen has to cover the rest. That's extenuating circumstances where your Friday guy gets scratched, but the point remains they haven't gotten enough innings from the starting pitching. I went back to last year, and I looked at LSU's starting staff in the 30 SEC games. It was Cade Anderson, Anthony Ianson. They pitched all 10. And you had Shores, Connor Ware for 2, and then Case and Evans for 2. Shores 6, Ware 2, Evans 2. Those are your 30 SEC starts. Cade Anderson went 6 innings. I'm not talking about 8 innings. He went 6 innings, completed 6 innings 5 times. Ianson did it 3 of his last 5. So they combined to do it 8 times in 20 starts, right? 8 out of 20. You're talking about 40% of the time, those guys gave you 6 innings. Well, you look at Evans and Schmidt, and those two guys have combined through 7 weeks of league play to do it 3 times. And it's all Evans. Evans has done it 3 times. 7 2/3. That was against Oklahoma. 6 innings. That was against Kentucky. And then he gave you 6 more back in Oxford. But 3 times. Schmidt has not done it yet. Schmidt has not completed 6 innings yet. And certainly nobody in Game 3s has done it. In fact, last year, Kason Evans did it once in Game 3. Against Tennessee, he went 6 innings. So LSU last year went 9 out of 30. 9 out of 30 times they got 6 innings. LSU to this point is at 3 out of 21. 9 out of 30 is 30%. LSU right now is getting that 30%. Or you got it last year at 30%. This year they're getting it at 14. It's half. Half. So what you're doing is forcing that bullpen into games and into games and into games. LSU asked or got about 15 innings per weekend from starting pitching last year. 15 innings per starting weekend. 5.55 if you want to divvy it up that. But 15 innings per starting weekend. LSU is getting 12 right now. And that doesn't sound like a big deal. It's like 3 innings over a weekend. Like 3 innings is not that big a deal, right? Well, let me extrapolate it out over 10 weekends. Now it's 30 extra innings. It's 30 innings where you don't have your ace on the mound. You don't have your number 2 on the mound. 30 innings that you are likely to extrapolate this out to where you're asking your bullpen, which are the guys down the list, to give you outs. That's just too much. And this is not earth-shattering news, but I had not put numbers to it. I would have thought Kate Anderson did pitch 6 innings more than 5 times in league play last year. Now, he had, on 2 different occasions, 5 2/3. He was an out short. But you're just not getting the length. And this goes beyond this year. Because I know that there are people, when I start talking about LSU baseball this year, they're like, who cares? Well, 1, we're going to cover the team. Like, what do you want me to talk about right now? And 2, these 2 guys, Evans and Schmidt, are likely, is that the word? Likely? Likely to be 2 of your 3 weekend guys? Likely to be your 1 and 2 next year? This is not good enough. It's not bad. Like, listen to some of these numbers from Kason Evans. I realize numbers are tough on radio, but these are not bad starts. 7 2/3 shutout. That's obviously great. He did that against Oklahoma. But 6 innings, 4 runs against Kentucky. That's not terrible. 5 2/3, 3 runs. Not terrible. 6 innings, 3 runs in Oxford. Not terrible. 5 innings, 6 runs. Not great. Not a great outing there. But Schmidt, 4 innings, 3 runs in the opener at Vanderbilt. Not good, but not awful. The next week, come home, Oklahoma. 4 innings, 1 run. The next week, Kentucky. 5 1/3, no runs. Like, that's not bad. The following week, 5 2/3, 2 runs. Not awful. This past week, you were in Starkville. He goes 4 innings, 2 runs. Like, that's not that bad. It's just not great. It's just not good. They're not getting crushed. Yes, Schmidt gave up 7 runs against A&M. Yes, that happened. Yes, Evans, last week, A&M gave up 6 runs. Yeah, that's not great. But a lot of their outings have been in the neighborhood of 4 2/3, 2 or 3 runs. They're not pitching you out of games. They are not paramount on the list of problems LSU has. But when you extrapolate it out over a 10-weekend SEC slate, and you're consistently not hitting 6 innings, you are putting too much strain on your bullpen. And despite the fact that LSU has immense resources, despite the fact that Jay Johnson is an elite recruiter, despite the fact that a lot of pitchers in this program are going to be drafted, despite the fact that you've got a lot of guys that are 95 miles an hour, asking bullpen guys, who are bullpen guys for a reason, to cover 4 innings on Friday, and then 5 2/3 on Saturday, and then 7 on Sunday, you can't win. You're not going to win doing that. Now, I asked Jay Johnson on Saturday in Starkville, and I would play the audio for you, but there's fireworks going off in the background and music blaring, so it's not very good on air. I could use it in print. I can't use it on air. I asked Jay Johnson, like, how do you get Schmidt deeper into games? Because, again, like, 4 innings, 2 runs at State, like, he didn't pitch you out of the game. But how do you get him deeper into the game? And Jay looked, and he said, it's not something I want to get into. And what that means, let me cut into that quote and tell you what that means. That means I don't want this in the media. He said, I don't want to get into it, but we have some things that we're going to get into and that we're going to work on. It's a point of emphasis. Like, they're not aware of it, and they feel like they have some things to work on. He's just not going to tell me to put it out on blast what they're doing so that other teams are well aware of what William Schmidt's doing. I have a thought. You want my thought? This is a guess. It has nothing to do with inside sources or what Jay said when the mics were off. It's not anything like that. My thing is that William Schmidt leans on his breaking ball too much. And when you throw a bunch of breaking balls, one, you throw a lot of balls, so you get up, you work deeper into counts, and your pitch count elevates. And 2, you don't get quick contact. If you feel confident to win with your fastball, you can spot your fastball in places and have guys put it in play, but it's a pitcher's pitch and they get themselves out. And if they don't, after a couple of pitches, then you bury the breaking ball and you finish them. But if you go breaking ball 1-0, and then breaking ball, which the guy's not going to swing at because it's 1-0, breaking ball, then it's 1-1. Then you go breaking ball again, and it's 2-1. You miss the zone. Then you go breaking ball again, it's 3-1. Then you come back with a fastball, but he knows the fastball's coming. Like, that's a bad way to live. You pump strike 1 in there. Well, now you got the hitter on the defensive. So you might be able to throw a breaking ball there and get him to roll over it because he's playing defensive. Or you might get to 0-2, and now you're really in control, and guys aren't going to hit you a lot when you're 0-2. But you got to trust your heater early. And you got to trust that the guys can hit the ball and that you can play defense on your side and that you'll get quicker outs. But he's not. He's not working deep enough into games. Here's Schmidt, 4 innings, 5 1/3, 5 2/3, 3 2/3, 5 1/3, 4 innings. When we look up at the end of this season, William Schmidt's SEC ERA is not going to be bad. It's not going to be good, but it's not going to be bad. But I don't think anybody would sit here and say that he's had a great season. Same thing for Evans. But they got to pitch more innings because you cannot ask your 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys on the pitching staff to eat as many outs as LSU is right now. And they're compromised. More going out hurts. Evans going out hurts. Jay Johnson just spoke with the media. He hasn't ruled Evans out for this weekend. It sounds unlikely. So you're going to go out there with one starting pitcher again, and William Schmidt will go out there and give you 4 2/3 or 5 2/3 or whatever it is, and you're going to ask your bullpen to pitch the rest of the weekend. And LSU has to sweep this weekend, and you're not going to sweep with that bullpen out there that many innings. You're just not. You're not going to win 3 games. So that's a problem. It's not the problem with this LSU team. Defense has been awful. There's been bad base running. You had transfers that haven't panned out. The offense has been schizophrenic. You haven't handled aces. There's plenty that's happened, and starting pitching is not chief among them. This is just something I put numbers to. If you want to read more about it and kind of look at it, you're driving around and the numbers are kind of rattling around in your brain. You're not really sure exactly what I've said. I wrote it at LouisianaSports.net. It's probably more digestible there. You can go read it for free. But it's a big issue and something that LSU's got to get moving forward. Evans and Schmidt, y'all have to pitch deeper into games next year. You're going to be in the weekend rotation. You're going to be 1 and 2. I need you to get me at least 11 innings every week. I'd really like you to get me 12 every week. Anthony Ianson and Cade Anderson, 9 out of 10 weekends last year, one of them went 6 innings. LSU's done it 3 times through 7. Not good enough. All right, every Thursday show brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. We'll step aside. We'll talk to Luke Johnson about the Saints when we come back.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. Closet space, not something I took all that serious when I bought my home in 2015. The soon-to-be wife, girlfriend at the time that moved in, went, this closet space is not going to work. Now, we would have called One Bath and Closets, but we knew we were going to move. If you're looking at your closet space and you like your interest rate and your location, but you don't like the closets, don't move. Get David Duvall and One Bath and Closets to come in. They can use your existing space far more efficiently, and that may be all you need, or they can come in and build you a new closet. Either way, it's going to function beautifully, customized to your specifications, and it's going to look great. Check out the pictures on their website. You can see how fantastic the work looks. David Duvall and his team are going to do it right the first time and leave the competition behind. It's One Bath and Closets. You can find them online at onebathandclosets.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Thursday shows brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. If you've been listening for some time, you know that Luke Johnson joins us on Thursdays, except when a new Johnson shows up, and then he takes a little bit of time off. But he's back now, and I'm told it's his birthday. What an amazing birthday gift he's giving us by showing up on the airwaves here for the first time in a little bit. Luke, happy birthday. How are you, sir?
What a guy. What a guy. I'm doing great, man. For somebody who is saying goodbye to his 30s, I'm surprisingly feeling pretty good.
Well, that's good to hear.
I'm not ready. I don't have one foot in the grave just yet.
I'm glad to hear that. Just one foot on the airwaves here. Let's talk some Saints. Do you feel materially different about the Saints today than you did this time last week, pre-first round?
Yeah, I mean, I do. I just think I really like some of the stuff they did on offense in free agency, but to add somebody who's just like going to pair with Chris Olave and be like another dynamic receiving option for Tyler Shuck, I think that was just so big for them. And then you get Oscar Delp in the third round, who just like really rounds out that tight end room, and they can play some like big boy football now with him in there. You get Bryce Lance in the fourth round, somebody who can take the top off the defense, and kind of play a limited role for you, but an important one. I just like you look at this offense and you just feel really good about it, 1 through 11. There's no spots in this now where I'm just like, they could use somebody there, which is like exactly where we were in the last several seasons. I think they've done so much to just make this like a real NFL offense that, you can't go into this season and say like there's anything here that is going to be a reason to explain away, whether or not Tyler Shuck is successful, right? If he doesn't succeed this year, it's not because they didn't surround him with the right kind of talent. And they'll have a definitive answer by the end of the 2026 season on whether he's their guy moving forward, because you feel really good about it right now because he did it with cast of characters. It wasn't nearly as good last year. If he can even play at the same level or a little bit better, you're going to feel really, really good about where you're at as a franchise.
Let's leave the injuries out of it. How does Jordan Tyson fit in when healthy with this group?
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think there's any question to me that if he's right and if he's healthy, I think he is the best receiver in this draft. Like, I think there's true number one wide receiver potential with him, which like I just don't think anybody else had, or at least not in the way that is obvious on going into the draft. So he's big enough. He's 6'2", 203. He runs routes like a slot receiver, but he can play on the outside. He can line up in the backfield. He will catch anything you throw his way. I mean, yeah, I felt a lot worse about the Sam Levitt experience at LSU watching some of these highlights, right? Because he's just hauling in balls that are just like nowhere near where they should be, And I say that tongue in cheek. I hope Levitt's really good there, but he's running across the middle of the field and the ball is like way behind his back shoulder and he's reaching back to catch it while he's on the move. Like there's some really, really special traits there. And when you think about putting him next to Chris Olave, or putting him on the opposite side of the field with Chris Olave, like not only do their skill sets match up well, but like you're not going to be able to just like rotate help to one side of the field anymore. And it's going to make things better and easier for Chris Olave. It's going to make things better and easier for Devon Vele. I just like there's so many different ways they can go with the football here. That just makes you feel really good about it. And I think I feel better about him than somebody like Carnell Tate, who I also really liked, right? But he's just so similar stylistically to Olave, where I think with Tyson you're gonna be able to do more in-breaking stuff. You're gonna be able to do attack like all levels of the field with him, whereas Tate I think is just more of like an outside vertical receiver. And just the versatility piece of it when you match it with a mind like Kellen Moore, I think it just makes me feel really good about the pick as long as he can stay healthy.
We haven't spoken since free agency when obviously the Saints went and got Achan. What does that mean for Alvin Kamara, and what do you expect on that front over the next couple of months?
Well, at the very least, it's going to be a diminished role, right? Which I think is good. Because like I think clearly at this stage in his career, like if you're asking Alvin to touch the ball 20, 25 times a game, it's not going to work out in your favor. He's had a hard time staying on the field. I mean, it's a really demanding physical position. Alvin's like, he's built well, but he's not the biggest back. And I think it takes away from what made him special when he first came into the league, which is like he's just a big play waiting to happen. Just like we haven't seen that for years. I think if you're taking a lot of the wear and tear off of him and kind of getting him back in that 10 to 12 touch range, I think there's a chance that he's a lot better player than we saw the last year. But again, I don't think it's necessarily set in stone that he's going to be back either. I mean, I feel more confident that he's going to be back now than I did at the start of the draft when, I thought like maybe there was a chance to take a running back in the first 2 days of the draft and maybe that pushes him out. Right now, I mean, it would have to be like they're just choosing to move on and choosing to see what Devin Neal can do, or see if Kendra Miller's healthy, and you're willing to take that dice roll about whether he's going to stay on the field for the first time in his career. But I just think that he's definitely not going to have as big a role in this offense. And again, I just think that's probably a good thing. That's when we were seeing it when he was a rookie. He was getting like 10, 11 carries a game with 5 or 6 catches a game. Like that was probably a good output for him. I think we could probably see something in that realm, in 2026 at age 31 or whatever he is.
Same question on Cam Jordan. Obviously, the Saints have not brought him back to this point. It hasn't appeared to have been a market for him. Like, what's the deal there?
Yeah, that one's the most interesting one to me, because Cam's a really proud player, and this is the first time in his career he's gone into free agency, and I don't think it's played out the way he wanted it to. Right? I don't think he was going into this envisioning that he was going to be unsigned on April 30th. So that will probably help the Saints' chances bringing him back, right? If he's not signed to this point, it means he hasn't either gotten the money or gotten the sort of kind of commitment to being on the field and being, like one of the primary rotation guys on the edge. It probably helps the Saints' chances. If they're competing with a couple other teams who are offering similar ballparks with stuff, like maybe he wants to come back. But he's also, like I said, like a really proud guy. And I think, the fact that he hasn't gotten what he wanted from New Orleans, I mean, that probably stings. He's probably going to have to swallow some pride if he wants to come back. But I do think the door's still open, right? Even though they traded for Tyree Wilson, even though they went out and signed Anthony Jennings, I don't think that by any means is them just closing the door on Cam Jordan. Jennings, I think I think Wilson's like, I feel pretty good about him being on the team, but I think Jennings is somebody who's going to have to prove, what he can do to make the roster. I think if the situation lined up right, they could absolutely bring Cam back, but it's got to be the situation that the Saints want, not necessarily what Cam wants.
Last one here, Luke. Appreciate your time. Any day 3 draft pick that you feel any differently about that you think is a good chance to make the team?
Yeah, I brought up Bryce Lance. I think he might have like a 10 to 15 snap role in this offense, maybe even less if Jalen Polk is a much better player than he was in New England, if they're able to get like all the potential out of him. But I think Lance offers something that was just kind of missing with like the true just vertical threat, right? He's gonna. I feel very good about him making the team, and they can kind of use this year to be like, okay, do the things that you're really good at, right? Stretch the field, use your size and your speed, and we'll take advantage of that. We got a quarterback with a big arm, who likes to throw the ball downfield. Like we'll get you the chances there, but then use the rest of this year to develop everywhere else, right? Because he's not like the technician like Jordan Tyson and Chris Olave are. He's got a limited but important skill set. And then the other guy, the other 4th rounder, Jeremiah Wright. I don't think he's going to play this year, but I think they've fired some shots across the bow on Cesar Ruiz. And his contract's coming up, and it's kind of put up or shut up time, for him. He got the extension with the Saints, but it's been kind of hit or miss since he signed that, and I think they're putting the pressure on it. Wright is a guy who's, he is older. I think he's 25 right now as a rookie. He probably doesn't have a ton of development left, but I think they're going to use this to see if he can be one of their starting five in 2027. So definitely somebody who I'm keeping an eye on in the future, if not for this year.
Luke, happy birthday. Spend some family time this evening. We'll talk next week. Thanks, man.
Sounds good, buddy.
That is Luke Johnson with NOLA.com and The Advocate covering the Saints. I want to remind you about Fabry Chevrolet GMC, FabryChevrolet.com, FabryChevrolet.com. The entire inventory is online at FabryChevrolet.com. That means Chevy Silverados up to $11,000 off MSRP. That means GMC Sierras up to $13,000 off MSRP. Four-figure savings up at Fabry Chevrolet GMC. You can find them in that short drive up Highway 61 in St. Francisville. Just a hop, 7, and a jump from Baton Rouge. If you're north of town in, say, Baker or Scotlandville or even Zachary, maybe you are in the Felicianas or over in Point Capee, it's a quick drive over to Fabry Chevrolet GMC on Highway 61 in St. Francisville. You can start your buying process online. The entire inventory is right there. But I highly suggest you go by and see them and experience what has kept the Fabry family around in business for 3.5 decades. It's their amazing customer service and great service after the sale as well. It's Fabry Chevrolet GMC, online at FabryChevrolet.com. Moving along here on this Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Talked a little LSU baseball at the top of the show. Now talked a little Saints there with Luke Johnson. Got some LSU football coming up in 30 minutes. Lane Kiffin's scheduling thoughts, I think, are interesting, and his habits support what he's been saying at the podium during press conferences, so I'll get into that in 30 minutes. I wrote a column about it at louisianasports.net that you can check out for free right there online. But when we come back, we'll talk to our guy, Joe Healy, D1 Baseball's SEC Extra Team, about LSU and I guess the rest of the Southeastern Conference as well. We'll do that next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Speaking of LSU baseball, they swing Marucci. You want to get by and see the official bat of Major League Baseball, you can do it over there at Marucci. Two former big leaguers and their athletic trainer started handcrafting bats in a backyard shed. 22 years later, they're the bat, the official bat of Major League Baseball. If you want to see where 1,200 of these bats are made and learn the story of how you go from a backyard shed to outfitting the world's best players with their bats, go take a tour. Go to maruccisports.com/campus-tour and take that tour. Every single time you get a ticket to the campus tour, you get a 20% discount in the campus tour store and in the Hitter's House. Speaking of the Hitter's House, you got a youth baseball or softball player that wants to take some swings, get a membership to Marucci, get key access to that batting cage and pitching area. You can use it 24/7. It's all there at Marucci. Check them out online at maruccisports.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Thursday shows brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. We'll talk about Lane Kiffin's scheduling coming up in 25 minutes. Right now, let's go to the Diamond. Joe Healy, D1 Baseball's SEC Extra Team. Of course, Highway to Hoover podcast as well. Weekend Waypoints every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday on YouTube. Joins us on Thursdays. Joe, how are you?
Not doing too bad, hon. How are you, man?
Well, that depends. I'm going to start talking about football real early this year, which is a huge bummer for me. But we'll talk some baseball right now. I guess it's still relatively relevant. I guess let's start with LSU. Like, how surprised are you that this is the result that we've gotten this year?
Yeah, very. I mean, even if you go back, let's say 4 weeks, I'm surprised we've ended up where we've ended up, because certainly it's a surprise from the beginning of the season because we had them ranked number 3 or whatever it was to start the season. So you never anticipate it ends up like it's ended up. But like I said, even if you go back 4 weeks, I kind of thought this was a team that would kind of overcome some deficiencies and kind of scratch and claw its way to getting into regionals. And then it might be dangerous in a regional because it seems like, Jay Johnson coach teams always are dangerous once they get in the postseason. And I thought, ultimately it would look back a bit of a disappointing season, but you move on. Now it's looking like a little bit of a lost season. And, that's a totally different prospect because it's not really something we've had or had to deal with LSU under Jay Johnson. It's a totally lost season where it doesn't feel like there's any momentum from one year to the next. That'll make for a really interesting offseason, that's for sure.
It will. Let's talk about some of the other teams in the league, specifically the one that I watched last weekend in Starkville. They will head to Austin. It's number 10 Mississippi State headed to number 4 Texas, only separated by half a game in the league standings to this point. How do you see that series playing out in the Lone Star State?
Well, if Texas pitches up to its potential, I think that's your series winner right there, because I think their best on the mound is as good as anybody else's best at any given time. It feels like Ruger Riojas is due for a better start. He's had a couple in a row that haven't necessarily gone particularly well, but Dylan Volantis has been excellent in his 2 starts in the Friday spot, and Harrison on Sundays is about as good as anybody in terms of Sunday starters in the country. He's been really, really solid. So if those guys pitch up to their potential, I think it's a series win for Texas. Now, we saw if things get a little bit sideways, we saw last weekend with Mississippi State, they didn't pitch great on the mound necessarily, but they just took what LSU gave them and said, okay, if you want this to be an ugly, slug it out kind of game, we can do that. And so if they can get Texas off schedule on the mound, I think Mississippi State's offense has a chance to really hang this weekend, but I'm not sure I'm betting on Texas's pitching being that off to where Mississippi State is able to win games 13-8, for example.
I mean, Mississippi State having been a part of 6 straight sweeps is a wild statistical anomaly with them entering this weekend. Let's talk about Auburn and Texas A&M. Tigers saw the Aggies a couple of weeks ago. Will not play Auburn this year. You think A&M's a legitimate national title contender?
Boy, I have a hard time with just as thin as their pitching is. I really have a hard time. I'm pretty good comp, and I don't know if I've said this on your show. If so, if I'm repeating myself, I apologize. But it reminds me a little bit of the 2022 Texas A&M team that got to Omaha, where it was just like, man, this lineup can really mash, and they really grind you down. And it felt like no opposing starting pitcher could finish 5 innings because they'd foul off, 55 pitches in the first 4 innings, and they just drive you nuts offensively. And then on the mound, it got really, really dicey for them, and they kind of had to win games ugly. This feels a little bit like that. Now, maybe that's a little bit disrespectful to some of the guys they have that have had really nice years on the mound. I think Aiden Sims, chief among them. But it feels pretty similar to me. And that team, while they got to the Final Four of the College World Series, and I guess by definition that is a national title contender, once they were in Omaha, it never really felt like they were going to win the whole thing. And I wonder if we'll feel similarly about A&M, where this team gets through regionals and supers, ends up in Omaha, and it goes, this is a nice story, and this is a really dangerous team, but are we really serious that these guys are going to end up winning the national title? I don't know that we're going to take them that seriously, but maybe I'll change my mind here in 4 weeks, 5 weeks, whenever we're getting ready for Omaha.
How do you feel Michael Early's handled this year?
Really well. I'll admit, I'll be the kind of first to admit when people would ask me, what do you think of A&M this year? I kind of couched it and said, well, really talented, but if it just turns out that this coaching staff is just not particularly good at this, then it might not matter. And based on last year, the jury's still very much out on that. But I think he's handled it pretty nicely, and I think part of it too is keeping a little bit of a low profile. And that's easy to do when you're winning. But I think he was humbled by last season based on what I've heard. I've not had this conversation with him. Based on what I've heard by people who have had conversations with him, he was pretty humbled by what happened last year and kind of went into this year with a fresh mindset and just a fresh approach to what he was doing, realizing that, hey, what we did last year just wasn't good enough. And, it's come back and it's worked this year.
Underrated SEC rivalry. Ole Miss headed to Arkansas to play. These two teams are both 11-10. I would imagine massive hosting implications on the line in Fayetteville this weekend. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, looking forward to. I'm actually in Fayetteville as I speak to you right now, going to this series. Very much looking forward to it. First time I've been in Fayetteville here in a couple of years, in the spring anyway, so I'm looking forward to it. They're having an event called Brew Pig Suey while I'm here at the ballpark, so that seems like it's going to be a lot of fun. Probably a packed out stadium, but no. So Arkansas, I want to see signs of life, or I want to at least see a path forward offensively, and I'm just really struggling at this point. I think they are what they are, and when you combine that with the fact that the pitching, they've gotten what they've needed to get from Hunter Dietz, they've gotten sometimes what they've needed to get from a Saturday start at a Cole Gibbler, but they're not getting what they need on Sundays. Gabe Gackle hasn't been the same lockdown type guy in the bullpen ever since they moved him back to that role. That makes me a little nervous because when you combine it with the offense being what it is, I just don't think it's good enough for this team to be a true Omaha contender. And Ole Miss, I think is, just because you and I talked about it. I really like that rotation, and I think they're really dangerous with the bats. Now, are they also going to have games where they just get shut down? Yeah, that's going to happen. But if they're swinging the bats well, their starting pitching gives them a chance every time out. So I picked Ole Miss in the series because I just really like that matchup of their starting pitching against an Arkansas lineup that really, for no long stretch this season, has really figured it out.
All right, let's talk about the home series here. It's LSU and South Carolina. I think everyone is on the same page here in Baton Rouge. Everyone understands that this team is very, very, very unlikely to make the NCAA tournament, but that the young players are playing a little bit better. And look, if you do go 7-2, you've got a chance. Just no one really sees that coming. To get to 7-2, you have to win all three this weekend, and I think you're going to have to do it without Case and Evans, which makes things almost impossible. That's my LSU perspective on this, but your thoughts on South Carolina playing a little bit better and what this series may look like?
Yeah, South Carolina's kind of in a similar boat to LSU, where now they're starting to dream a little bit. They've won a couple of series. They're playing a little bit better. They certainly seems like they've come together as a team under Monty Lee, which is an interesting subplot here.
Yeah.
I don't know how this ultimately is going to end up, but like the momentum is starting to build for Monty Lee to be a real candidate for this job in the offseason. I'm not sure I would love that for them necessarily, but you have to admit they are playing better under his leadership. But they're kind of feeling like LSU is right now, but on the opposite end of the spectrum, where it's a similar record, but South Carolina is like, hey, we've got a chance here. Like if we really run through the rest of the schedule and play pretty well, we've got a chance to kind of back our way into the postseason. So it's a similar situation to LSU, just it's a flip side of the perspective on it, right? I think it's going to be tough to sweep this team this weekend for LSU. I mean, just because I think South Carolina is feeling pretty good about themselves right now. I think LSU wins the series. I'm not going to pick South Carolina to win it, but I think South Carolina steals the game here. And ultimately, to your point, that might be as damaging as really anything else LSU has done so far this season. Because when you looked at the schedule ahead of the season, you thought, okay, well, home against South Carolina, that's a weekend where we can really get greedy. And we had no idea how badly they would need it. And I just don't think this team is ready to sweep anybody right now.
No, I'd like them to win a game first, quite frankly. Would be awesome.
Yeah.
What's South Carolina's strength? What has allowed them to play better?
Yeah, the frontline pitching has been better. Brandon Stone and Ant Phillips are their two top starters. Those guys have been really, really solid. Different looks. Ant Phillips is more of a traditional kind of, fastball up in the zone, breaking ball for swing and miss. But Stone is he's just going to pound you with two-seam fastballs and hope you hit it on the ground. Like that's his whole thing. And sometimes it works and it's really great. And last year, I think he threw a complete game shutout doing that. And then sometimes the sinker's a little flat, it's up in the zone, and he gets hammered. And you just kind of don't know which one you're going to get when you show up to the ballpark. But when he's been good, he's been really good for them. The bullpen has also been a little bit of a strength. As the season has gone on, they've found who their guys are. Alex Philpott, the Florida transfer, is one of those guys. Alex Valentin, a Texas State transfer, is one of those guys. So pitching is where their bread is buttered. Offensively, it's not a very good offensive team. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. If somehow these scores are played really, really low, I think South Carolina likes that type of game because it means it's a pitching centric thing. But if the winning scores end up being 8, 9, 10, 11 runs, that's not really going to bode success for South Carolina.
Joe, we appreciate some time. Enjoy the baseball in Fayetteville this weekend. We'll talk next week.
All right, Hunt, see you, buddy.
That is Joe Healy, D1 Baseball's SEC Extra Team, Highway to Hoover podcast, and, of course, Weekend Waypoints every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Our Thursday shows are brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. It's grilling season, y'all, and Father's Day is closer than you might know. We're almost to May. June's around the corner. If you're looking for a Father's Day gift, maybe driving around thinking, what could I do for Dad? How about some premium Angus beef, some of the best beef you will find anywhere? You can make that happen. If you want to get half a cow, you can do it for 3 or 4 dads in your life and make that work. It's a fantastic option, and Sean is happy to help you out with that. You're talking about the top 1% of beef in the country. And look, if you don't like it, you don't pay for it. That's the deal that Sean makes you. But you're going to like it. The Palmer House, it's all we eat. Comes out of the freezer. Ground beef, ribeyes, fillets, strips, flank steaks, chuck roast, briskets, you name it. They got it. It's all prime. Top of the line stuff. You're already paying a premium price wherever you buy your beef, and you're probably not getting a premium product. Get a premium product from Sean Sagrera at Sagrera Farms. You can give him a call at 225, obviously right here in Baton Rouge, 719-1723. That's 719-1723. Talk to Sean. Go see the farm. Go see the operation where they are doing incredible things just north of Baton Rouge. It's Sagrera Farms. They bring you our Thursday shows each and every week. All right, we still got an hour and 15 minutes left to go. We'll talk some Lane Kiffin here in 15 minutes. When we come back, we will close out our number 1 on this Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com. HighlandIG.com is that website. Have you not been shown a captive by your insurance broker? If you're a sizable business, you spend significant premium dollars every single year on your insurance program, and you don't have losses, you may be a fit for a captive. And if you are, it could be a complete game changer for your bottom line. So if your insurance broker has not shown you a captive, perhaps your insurance broker doesn't have access to one or isn't aware of how they function or is being lazy. I don't know. But if you are a sizable business and you have great risk management, you have great loss history, and you spend significant amount on premiums, contact the Howland Insurance Group about a captive. It could completely be a game changer for your risk management costs. It's the Howland Insurance Group. They're based here in Baton Rouge. You can check them out statewide. It's the Howland Insurance Group online at highlandig.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
So, the weekend is almost here, right? That's your time to play some golf, right? But the weather looks terrible, right? Even if it does stop raining on Saturday and it's sunny on Sunday, like how much rain is going to fall on Friday and Saturday morning to make those golf courses soft and unplayable? We'll see. You never know. I'm not a meteorologist, but I do know it's not going to rain inside Swing Easy Golf Club in Baton Rouge. So if you're looking for a place to play some golf this weekend, want to hit some shots, want to work on your game, but you're worried about the weather, Swing Easy Golf Club offers you a spot to do that. You get an individual bay, got some comfortable seating options, a television there. You can crank some tunes. They'll bring you a couple cold beers, couple of seltzers, and you can play Pebble Beach or you can hit the driving range. You can bring some friends or you can hang out by yourself. The world's your oyster over there. You can do it morning. You can do it afternoon. You can do it at night when the sun goes down at Swing Easy Golf Club. If you're looking to hit some golf shots, looking to maybe do something different in the game of golf, go to Swing Easy Golf Club. You can check them out online at swingeasygcbr.com, and that'll give you some great pictures of what you're actually looking at Swing Easy Golf Club. But the best thing to do is just go by and see them. They're at Segan at Perkins, Segan at Perkins at Swing Easy Golf Club. Go play some golf this weekend. Grab a tee time, grab a suite, bring some friends, and hang out. Swing Easy Golf Club in Baton Rouge. All right, speaking of golf, I didn't force this into discussion earlier this week because we have a lot to talk about right now with the NFL draft in the rearview mirror and LSU spring football just wrapped up and the baseball team's playing and got basketball transfer portal. And there's just a lot going on, so I'm not going to shoehorn this in there somewhere just because. But now I do have a free segment here before we get into some LSU football at the top of the hour. So I'm going to talk about it. Live Golf, not going to get funding from the Saudi PIF anymore. This spells the end of Live Golf, and one of the things that was the first kind of stone in this path was the fact that they canceled the event in New Orleans. That New Orleans event was always the most laughable concept I have seen. It told me everything I needed to know about Live. They were going to come to New Orleans in June when it's 102 and rains every day to play a municipal golf course that is not hard for a 5 handicap, much less, and I use air quotes here, elite players. Some of them used to be elite players, and now they just collect a check, and they're not very good anymore. But those guys were going to shoot in the 50s at City Park. It's not even a challenging course for weekend hackers. There's no trees. You can hit it anywhere. That's not a championship-level golf course for professional players. And they were going to come and play in June. Ridiculous. More credence to the fact that it was consistently ill-conceived with no real plan other than Greg Norman hates the PGA Tour and Phil Mickelson hates the PGA Tour and the Saudis want to sports wash their money, so we'll just invent a golf league and we'll pay these guys who don't really want to play professional golf anymore a ton of money. Who wants to host that? Okay, well, New Orleans, can you make our driving range better? Sure. What do you need? $2 million? Got it. The whole thing was absolutely ridiculous, and I get heat all the time for my quote unquote live takes. It's like, oh, you would take the money too. It's not about the money. It's never been about the money. This is about the fact that they split golf in half. You took elite players. Cam Smith was an elite player. His career is over. John Rahm is an elite player, but he's playing on courses no one's ever heard of, for tournaments no one cares about. And he comes to the majors and he played terrible in the Masters. Dustin Johnson was in the twilight, and I'm fine with him going, but you took Brooks Koepka away and you took Bryson DeChambeau away. And those guys knew it was a complete and utter joke. It's why Brooks left immediately. It's why Patrick Reed left almost immediately. It's why Bryson's trying to leave.
And I don't like those guys, but I want them on my television at Pebble. I want them at Bay Hill. I want them at the Arnold Palmer at Bay Hill. I want them at the Players. I want them this week at Doral. I don't want them on YouTube in Dubai in front of 11 people. That's awful for golf. It would be awful for the NFL if 30 of the best players in the league split and went and played in the Tokyo Dome. That's bad. And every football fan would admit that was bad. But the football guys and the basketball guys and the baseball guys who don't really get golf make fun of the golf guys for not being happy about this. It's like, well, you took a decent amount of our really good players and watered down the tour. I don't like that. I want to see the best players. So thank God this atrocious idea that was never any good has folded, and we're going to get golf back at some point. Now, these guys that want to come back are going to have to pay for it. Brooks already did it. A lot of these guys didn't take the Brooks route, so they're going to have to figure things out. And the one guy I will pull hardest against for a long time is John Rahm, because John Rahm said he didn't need the money, said the money wouldn't change anything, said LIV wasn't real golf, and he got cranky over a 2-week span because he didn't like the commissioner, and he pulled a Mickelson. And I'm glad he's paying for it. But he needs to – I'm going to pull up against him a long time. That's just a personal thing. But I'm glad golf's getting back together. I'm glad LIV is dissolving, and I'm glad LIV's not going to New Orleans, so I don't have to chastise my friends for going to support it, because they were going to do it, even though it was 103 and probably going to rain. RIP LIV Golf, not really, go away. That's probably going to be it on LIV for a long time, which is great. We'll get into real sports now for those of you that are into the football thing. We'll talk about Lane Kiffin coming up here and his scheduling tactics. I have a sense of what Labor Day weekend could mean and what the future won't look like. We'll do that after Sports Center. We'll pause for National Headline. We'll come back for a Thursday edition right here on the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Gotros Outdoor Power. Gotros Outdoor Power. 2 locations for Gotros Outdoor Power. 1 on Airline Highway in Baton Rouge. 2 in Gonzales. They've been at it for 22 years in business. Family owned and operated. You can get a zero turn a lot of places. Big box stores have got them. But what kind of customer service do you get? You get it at Gotros Outdoor Power from a family owned and operated business. And sometimes when I say family owned and operated business, people think, oh, well, that's probably a little small shop around the corner. No, it's not. It's got the largest Hustler inventory in the state by far. They've got the largest parts inventory in the state at Gotros Outdoor Power. So if you're looking for a zero turn, they can get you behind the wheel for $100 a month. You got a big property you need to maintain, got old equipment or need new equipment, Gotros Outdoor Power. Well, I don't have a trailer to get it to my property. Oh, Gotros has that, because that's the customer service aspect they provide to you. 2 locations, Airline Highway in Baton Rouge and in Gonzales. You can find them at their website, GotrosOnline.com. GotrosOnline.com.